Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's so great to have you here hanging out with me again. In this video, I'm going to give you the good and bad traits of Gemini, and then give a bit of a guide, giving you the top 3 do's, the things to do in order to bring out the best in your Gemini, and the top 3 don'ts, which would be the things not to do. This way you can do your part to make sure not to trigger your Gemini into behaving from their negative traits. I'm also going to cover the cusp of Gemini and how being born on the cusp will affect their personality. In addition to that, I'm going to give you the biggest difference between a male Gemini and a female Gemini. And last but not least, I'm going to give you the best soulmate matches for Gemini. So hopefully, if you have a Gemini in your life, this will help you to deepen the connection and create a thriving relationship with the oh so exciting, lively, and amusing twins. I mostly had in mind the sun sign when I was doing this video, but you'll also find that it applies to Gemini moon as well. Okay, so no more wasting time. Here are the good and bad traits of Gemini and a quick guide on how to get the best version of them in a relationship. Let's go. Okay, so here are some positive traits of Gemini, and then I will give you the top 3 do's in order to bring out the best in your Gemini. So some of the positive traits of Gemini: they are adaptable, witty, charming, and they have a great sense of humor. Gemini is a mutable sign, and although they are full of ideas and are usually pretty clear on how they want things done, they are very capable of taking in a situation and assessing that situation in order to make the best choice on how to make the most of those circumstances. And in the process, they aren't too stuck in their ways that they don't budge. They actually can be pretty open-minded and are definitely capable and willing to adapt when the circumstances call for it. So yes, they are adaptable. We also know that all 3 of the air signs perceive the world through their intellect. And Gemini, when perceiving the world through their intellect, is very capable of sifting through information quickly and responding with a clever and even entertaining perspective. So they are definitely witty. In addition to that witty disposition, Geminis also have this unique way of smiling their way into your heart. It's something about the combination of their eyes that have an interesting sparkle in them that also gives you the impression that they're innocent but slightly mischievous at the same time. And like I said, that smile that always has a hint of playfulness that makes them very, very charming. So if there are any Geminis out there watching this, then lucky you, you're very charming. And if you aren't a Gemini and you're watching this because you've had some experience with a Gemini, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you've probably fallen for that charm more than once. And my favorite thing about Geminis is the fact that they can find the humor in almost any situation, and no matter what, will find a way to make you laugh and lighten the mood when things get heavy. So yes, they have a great sense of humor. Now, in order to do your best to make sure that the Gemini that you're involved with is operating from these positive traits that I just mentioned, here are the top 3 do's when it comes to a relationship with the Gemini. Number 1, do show them that you trust them. Like all of the air signs, Geminis value freedom, and they like to know that they're with someone that trusts them to do the right thing. And in many circumstances, I would tell someone that in a relationship, you should have someone earn your trust and prove themselves trustworthy before you decide to trust them. But with a Gemini, it will actually work in your favor if you give them the benefit of the doubt and give them your trust initially. Now, when I say initially, I don't mean that when you first meet them, just jump right in and start trusting someone that you don't even know. But I am saying that if you've been getting to know this Gemini and you like them enough to give the relationship a go, then I'm saying it will work in your favor to show them that you do trust them enough to give them a certain amount of freedom, because Geminis feel like if you're too controlling or too uptight, it makes them want to rebel against that energy. Basically, I'm saying that the more trustworthy you treat your Gemini, the more trustworthy they will be. As a matter of fact, the person who first stated, if you love someone, set them free, and if they come back, they're yours, and if they don't, they never were, that person who said that probably dated a Gemini to come to that conclusion. Because that's how they work. Give them freedom and they will give you commitment. But try and contain them and they will fight to be free. Now, don't get me wrong. Healthy boundaries, when necessary, are great in any relationship. It's just really important to know that balancing those boundaries with a certain level of freedom is very important if you want to keep the connection strong with your Gemini. Number 2, do accept their friends. Geminis usually have a pretty diverse group of friends and actually usually have more than one group of friends that appeal to different parts of who they are. They may have one group of friends that's all about going out and having fun and acting crazy, and then the other group that kind of stays home and is a bit more chill. But either way, their friends mean a lot to them, and if you are the type that expresses judgment for their friends or say that you don't want them hanging out with certain type of people or a certain person, they will get over you very quickly. Geminis are all about acceptance, and the more that they see you accept who they hang with, the more excited they'll be about you, and the more attracted to you they'll become, and the more they'll want to make sure that they're doing their part to keep the relationship going strong because you're fitting into their life very well, which will make them want to fit into yours the same way. Number 3, do be straightforward with your communication. All air signs have an issue with speculation. And by that, I mean they tend to read between the lines and think they know how you feel without you telling them. They love to read your actions and draw conclusions. So the more you're very specific and straightforward with them when it comes to how you feel or what you're going through, the more they will respond based on the facts that you gave them. Otherwise, if you aren't specific and direct, they'll create an entire story of what they think you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, etc. So to avoid miscommunication, which always leads to disconnect, when it comes to a Gemini, you want to be as forthcoming and direct as possible. This way, there's no need for them to speculate, and it will save you both from a whole lot of confusion. If you keep these dudes going strong, you will experience the support, commitment, and good-natured fun of your Gemini. Now, if your Gemini gets triggered to anger, all bets are off, and this is what you can expect from the dark side of Gemini. They become inconsistent, manipulative, disorganized, and cunning. Now, Geminis already have a hard time being consistent because they constantly like to change things up. But when things are going well in the relationship, they go with the flow because the flow is enjoyable. But when you trigger that dark side, they may give you one energy one moment and another completely contrary energy the next without feeling the need to explain to you why. When they feel disconnected, that team player mentality that they once had quickly diminishes, so they can for sure be inconsistent, which leads into manipulation. Meaning Geminis like to get what they want, and if things aren't going the way that they want them to go, they can be very clever in finding ways to manipulate a situation or a person to get what they want. Now, disorganized is all about the fact that when they are angry, all sense of practicality, planning, or just grounded energy goes right out the window, and you'll be dealing with a scattered energy in all senses of the word. And in the midst of this, they won't be as forthcoming with accurate and direct information, which is another way of saying they will be cunning with their strategy to stack the odds in the favor of themselves so they can feel in control. So it's pretty obvious that you don't want to get on a Gemini's bad side. And to help you on this journey of staying on the good side of Gemini, here are the don'ts. Number 1, don't be too uptight and critical. A Gemini does not respond well to critical energy. They don't mind if you give your opinion on something. Actually, they appreciate hearing someone else's opinion. But if you're the type that's always looking at the glass as half empty, it will really bring them down. They already have a tendency, because they are an air sign, to look at the what ifs in life and to, like I said earlier, speculate. And if you bring negative energy, it will bring out the part of them that will entertain the ideas of worst case scenario, which will just bring them down. And if you bring down their vibration, they will not want to continue being around you. Also, Geminis love the energy of taking spontaneous action towards having spontaneous fun. So if you're the type that is uptight saying, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I don't like that, then they're going to be thinking to themselves, no, I don't want to be around you anymore. So open your mind and approach them from a positive perspective, and you will get a much better outcome with your Gemini. Number 2, don't mistake their friendliness for flirtation. When we hear Gemini, we always hear flirtatious, and yes, they can be flirtatious for sure. But when they're in a relationship and they're in love and committed, they do respect boundaries and they do their part in making sure to honor the relationship and the person that they're with. However, Geminis are extra friendly. They smile and they talk a lot, sometimes to people that they don't even know. But if you're always reading into this as them flirting and then you get pissed and jealous, then you're definitely gonna have a fight on your hands, because you'll approach them telling them that they were flirting, and they will look at you like you have 20 heads, because in their mind they were just being friendly, like they are to almost everyone. So if you're the type that gets jealous easy, no worries, I get it. I for sure have had many phases in life where jealousy played a large role in how I perceived situations. But the rule of thumb when it comes to jealousy in general, but especially with Geminis, is this. If you feel like you're witnessing something inappropriate, make sure you have some sort of proof before you approach them with it. Because if you say, it seems like you were into them, or I know you were into them without any proof, then let's get ready to rumble! Because a Gemini will debate that all day. So rule of thumb, no proof, then give them the benefit of the doubt and chalk it up to your Gemini being friendly, and this will save you from a whole lot of drama. Because trust me, if they are being shady, you will find a moment where there's genuine proof and you can deal with it at that point. Okay, number 3, don't shut down and walk away in an argument. If there's anything a Gemini can't stand, that is being cut off without closure. So it's very important, if you want to stay connected and maintain a healthy relationship with your Gemini, that if you two are in a debate or an argument, that you make sure you hear them out. Even if you get frustrated, don't just shut down and walk away. This will trigger their distrust and their fear of abandonment. They need to know that when the going gets tough, that you stick around and you stick it out. Show them that you are willing to fight for the connection, and they will feel so much more confident in the relationship and much closer to you, because they know that you care enough to put forth the effort to talk things out in order to resolve any conflict and keep the connection in the relationship going. So now that you have the do's and don'ts, it's important to know that there are many different versions of Gemini, because we're not just our sun sign. And for the different versions of Gemini with regard to how they will be affected depending on what their moon sign is, check out my video titled The Top 10 Things You Need to Know About Dating a Gemini. The second half is all about the different versions of Gemini based on their moon sign. And if you're new to astrology and you don't know what a moon sign is, check out either of these 2 videos where I explain what your moon sign is and why it's important. And if you don't even know your moon sign, go to astrologyguide.com, put in your birthday info, and find out. Now, the biggest difference between a male Gemini and a female Gemini is this. A Gemini woman requires intellectual stimulation in order to be in a relationship and to stay attracted to the person that she's with. If she's not attracted to their mind, she will find it very hard to stay attracted to them physically. Whereas a Gemini man, yes, he too is attracted to someone that he can find an intellectual connection with, but interestingly enough, he also loves a bit of drama. Now it's tricky. A Gemini man doesn't want to take love so seriously that it becomes heavy, but he loves to be with someone who is very emotional and expresses their feelings freely, because not only does it keep him engaged, but it also helps to bring out the part of him that is a romantic and that loves the idea of love. So a Gemini man looks more for the emotional, dramatic connection in addition to the intellectual stimulation, but a Gemini woman requires the intellectual stimulation and doesn't mind the emotional intensity, but would not put up with it for a second if there isn't that intellectual connection. Now, let's talk about cusps. So for those of you that are new to astrology, cusps basically mean those people born right before another sign is about to begin. So there are 2 cusps for every sign. For Gemini, the first cusp would be those of you who are born from May 21st through May 25th. Right when Taurus is ending and Gemini is beginning. So this would make you a Gemini with Taurus tendencies, meaning you will be adaptable and curious, but you'll also have a stubborn streak, and it will be very difficult for you to be moved off your course of action once you've made up your mind and you have it set on something. You'll be more practical about making money and budgeting your money, and you'll also have more of an inclination towards artistic pursuits. You will make a great first impression, and when it comes to love, you will be even more interested in a deep, committed, long-term relationship. Now, those of you who are Gemini and born from June 16th to June 20th, you're a Gemini with Cancer tendencies. You'll have the usual Gemini traits like talkative and, of course, quick-witted, but you will also be a bit more analytical and cautious to your approach in life. You will take the power of your word very seriously, and if you promise something, you will do everything in your power to keep that promise. You'll also pay much more attention to how people perceive you. Not to mention, you'll for sure have more of an inclination towards performing or finding some way to be well known in this world. You will also be more sensitive, and you'll approach love in a bit more of a traditional way than the usual Gemini. Which leads me to the next topic, which is Geminis and their best matches for soulmates. So I'm gonna break this down into 3 categories. First category is the best matches for Gemini. In no particular order. The best match for Gemini would be Aries, Aquarius, Libra, and Leo. The second category are the signs that work with Gemini, but it will definitely be tricky and it'll take a little extra work. These signs would be Cancer, Capricorn, Taurus, Pisces, and being with another Gemini. The third category would be the most challenging matches for Gemini, and these signs would be Virgo, Scorpio, and although the attraction and the sex may even be great from the start, it will fizzle out quickly when the fighting begins, like with all polar opposites. So the third on this list would be Sagittarius. Now remember, I'm a firm believer that you can be with anyone if you're in love and both of you are committed to growing together, having good communication, and always doing your part to stay connected. You know what I always say, love, that's all and that's enough. But this is just to help you in understanding where the challenges will come into play and how big those challenges would be. But like I said, this is general information because it's only based on just one placement. And knowing the entire chart, the sun sign, the moon sign, the rising sign, the Venus placement, these are all going to play a major role in compatibility as well. For example, I have a friend who is a Gemini with Scorpio moon and Aquarius rising, who is married to a Virgo with Capricorn moon and Capricorn rising. And because of that moon sign connection, the Scorpio moon with the Capricorn moon, their emotional compatibility is incredible, which will help them to overcome the challenges of being Virgo and Gemini, because those two signs are very different and it can be very challenging. But when there's conflict and they get emotional, they behave much more from their moon signs, which see eye to eye in just about every category because their moons are Capricorn and Scorpio. So just sun sign compatibility will mostly indicate if you'll have things in common and how differently or similarly you'll see the world intellectually. But you would have to check your moon signs for emotional compatibility and your Venus placement for how the two of you experience pleasure and the type of energy that you're attracted to and why. And remember, if you have Gemini moon, this video will resonate, but think of it more as explaining how you are emotionally as opposed to the overall disposition of your conscious mind and how you see the world. So there you have it. The do's and don'ts of dating a Gemini and some extra info on cusps, the difference between a female Gemini and a male Gemini, and a compatibility breakdown when it comes to finding a soulmate. Hopefully this helps you if you're in a relationship with or interested in being in a relationship with the energetic, intellectual, adaptable, fun-loving, sometimes manipulative, and slightly shady at times, but always up for enjoying the excitement of life, Gemini. I hope you all enjoyed this information. If you did, please hit that like button. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video.